What are some red flags of a bad friendship? When you call them out on bad behavior, they act like the victim. Major red flag. This one is, wow, you're really hurting me with these baseless accusations. Baseless? You're balls deep in my wife, so only like 2 inches in. It's the thought that counts. The thought. Every time you're finished hanging out you feel worse than you did before. That's a sign of a bad friend. Or if you consistently put off replying to them, not out of spite or anything but just because you don't have the energy for them. They're draining you. Obviously not black and white. Some people are just the type that require a lot of energy because they have a lot themselves. But recognizing this has saved me from a lot of unhappy or even toxic friendships. My best friend is draining me so much right now. She's cutting and getting suicidal again, and anytime I tell her she's pretty she fights it tooth and claw and pisses me off. Now she's wondering why I'm ignoring her. Bitch, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not up to talking to you at the moment. Because we have nothing to talk about except you being depressed and sad all the time and missing your ex who treated you like shit, and I'm tired of auto repeating the same thing all the time. When you never hear from them unless they need something. Oh, I hate to be on the giving end this. It's pathetic. I know I've failed as S-friend. But I need to do this thing too. I usually try to reconnect with them afterwards. I don't think there is anything wrong with it really. It's the ones who'd not even help you if you asked that is the problem. It's actually a pretty good thing in a relationship where when they think they need help they think of you. Friendship is a circular thing. This one is huge. My brother has low-functioning autism, and people have been taking advantage of him for years. He finally wisened up to it and cut out at least 9/10 of his old friend group in the last few years because they were calling him up for a good time, only to make sure he was the one paying the bill. The last straw for him was when he ended up paying 1.5k USD for one of his friends to go to Vegas or something with him. What a bunch of effers. Glad he's rid of them. What pieces of shit. I used to hang out with a pretty shitty crowd of people. They used to use the hell out of some people. Mostly it was just trides and weed, but sometimes money. My buddy who sold herb, he used to have girls use the shit out of him for money all the time. When you have something people want, or have a lot of money, having actual friends becomes really hard, even though you're surrounded by friends. This one sometimes for sure, but not always as you get older. Adult friendships are like, you're both so busy you barely get to talk and you've got maybe a dozen of these relationships. Sometimes what reminds you it's been a while since you talked is remembering your friend is good at a thing or advice when you were in a pinch. That can be a good thing as long as it's reciprocal. If you have a friend that you feel only calls you when they need something, ask them for a favor. See how they react. If any of my friends call me and need something, I barely listen to what it is before agreeing as long as it does not sound too crazy. Anyway, the point is, don't read that and think, oh, I've got this friend that does that with all. Considering both of your life situations first. Most of my friends work 10+ hours a day. If we can work in a favor for each other every couple months, it's a blessing. I personally suck at initiating. A lot of my friends would take this as I liked my alone time, but they knew if they asked, I'd be more than happy to help them out or spend time with them. This one is more like a yellow flag, since it can be pretty situational. Only talking about themselves without asking about how you are doing. I'm finding I'm struggling with this a lot more as I get older. I'm starting to think it's maybe a side effect of people generally having less time, being absorbed by their careers, relationships and whatnot. Mostly good people who I considered good friends don't seem too interested and can't be bothered to ask much about me while I'm constantly making an effort to probe about their life and interests the few times a month we get together. My handful of friends with kids. Fucking forget about it, and nothing in my life could possibly be as important or worth talking about. When they've always got to one-up someone. You had a bad day. Theirs was worse. Your commute was crappy. Theirs was worse. You got a promotion at work? Well, something even better happened to them at their job that day. And on and on. I sometimes catch myself doing this. I'm not trying to one-up though, it's usually just 'cause I'm trying to relate to their story by showing them I went through something similar. But I worry it comes off like I'm trying to one-up. Then I try to overcompensate by asking questions so they don't think I'm a dick. I just want people to know I care lol. When they're not there when you need them, but you're the first one they call when they need someone. I knew this one girl a few years ago. She was very much this kind of person. She would come to me for help all the time. She was pretty dramatic and always seemed to have a problem, but hey, I'm a pretty helpful guy, so I didn't mind. One day, it was my turn to feel sad. I was having a rough day. So I called her. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of figure this out on your own. I can't help you, I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep you warm, yada yada. Some fucking friend you are. But here's the best part, later that night, at like 3 a.m., my phone rings. Because someone was feeling fat and ugly and they really needed a shoulder to cry on. Did you miss your entire fucking speech only a few hours before this? Now I don't remember exactly what I said either, but it was something along the lines of shove it up your fat ugly ass, you inconsiderate F. Had one of these. She would literally call me about everything in her life and eventually I realized that I was just a sounding board for her shitty bad decisions where she was always the victim and if I tried to say anything about what I was dealing with then I was the asshole. It was a bad deal. I wish nothing bad for her but I also don't particularly miss her. My wedding showed me who my real friend was. My husband and I eloped. Immigration issues. We didn't have much time. My friends knew how difficult it was dealing with immigration lawyers, and the general stress of it all. I sent them both a FB message telling them I'd be getting married within the next week and I'd tell them the exact day when it came. Finally we decided on a day. I called both my friends. One friend told me she couldn't come because she planned on test driving a car that day. My other friend got the message late, jumped out of bed and got there just in time. It hurt like a bitch, but I found out who really cared and who couldn't give a rat's ass. I read first that she had her driver's test and thought that it was a valid excuse. But test driving a car instead of going to a wedding? Yeah. Nope, she was shopping for a new car and test driving one she liked took priority over my wedding. What's disappointing is that we were supposedly best friends. I think there was a lot of jealousy and resentment behind her decision to skip out, because she knew how much I love my husband and her boyfriend is a pretty lousy guy. I always knew she was a bit shallow but having her not be at my wedding stung pretty bad. I've made peace with the whole thing and phased her out of my life, but she occasionally messages me or comments on stuff to try and start a conversation. I really have no interest. Even if we did talk about the whole thing, she'd somehow make me out to be the one who's in the wrong. Walking on eggshells. Constantly worrying if what you say is going to make them mad. When they can lean on you whenever they need you but you can't lean on them. I feel like that's me around my best friend. Like she has quite a few things on her plate with family and stuff and there are days where it's too much for her and she's angry with everything and everyone. I never know when these days are so I just kinda stopped talking to her via text which is really bad for me BC there are times my mental state is really bad and I need some support but I don't feel like talking. It was the case twice that I needed someone and was like hey are you free to write/talk? And one time she was like no I have no time for your BS right now, or that's how it felt anyway, and the other time I was like can we meet up? BC I need some human contact RN and she was like no I don't have time, so I was like okay, I'll ask someone else and then she was angry, disappointed BC I would prefer to meet someone in person over having a phone call, when I clearly said I needed human contact plus she said she didn't have time. So by now I'm kind of only talking to her when we actually are about to meet up or via video chat, so I can see her body language, reactions, and I never feel like I can talk about how I feel because she has so much on her plate. It makes me feel more lonely. As a rule of thumb, do they make your life better? If not, then it's not a good friendship. I came to this realization with a couple of long-term friends I had from back in the day. They would never really do anything nice for you, we basically just hung out of habit. You couldn't expect them to be there for you if you needed a favor, even small ones. With one there was also constant ribbing, he'd play it off as joking, but it was closer to insults. I eventually came to the realization that these guys don't make my life better in any way. I can replace them with people who actually give a shit. This may come off as selfish sounding, but you have to remember to reciprocate and be a good friend too. If your friend needs a favor, and it's not unreasonable and you can do it, then do it. If you're always there for a friend and they don't reciprocate, then you're just being used. If you're not there for your friend but expect them to be there for you, then you're the one who is tool.